Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome. Welcome to Facebook Live, everyone. Can you all believe it? It is the 1st of December of year 2021. We finished another year, what we would call another year of being trailing on a pandemic and actually enduring it. So it's amazing that in another month or so, this year will be over as well, and we will move into year 2022. So I wanted to welcome our panel members. We have April here, who is our one and only psychic on the panel, as well as a spiritual teacher. Good evening, April. I see Ken joining slowly, so he should be logging in a few minutes. But we also have Patricia, who is on the panel. Good evening, Patricia. And then we have Ken, who's a fellow member. Good evening, Ken. Thank you for joining, everyone. So I wanted to start off this conversation. Patricia and Ken were actually at the group meditation last week, April. And in that talk, the talk is called The Source of All Trust. And I want you to tell us, depending on your counseling, how much ever you've done the counseling services and everything. One of the things that Eckhart says is one single person is not one single person. He or she is very many people. Like as though almost like a multiple personality disorder, but that they're not diagnosed with the multiple personality disorder, right? That one single person, like Eckhart, the example he gives in this talk is he lives in a cottage which has 3 rooms. So he had to rent out 2 of the bedrooms to other people because he couldn't afford it. He was really poor. So the people, there were 20 or 10 or 20 people that came in and out over a period of few years that lived with him. And he said, you couldn't tell, like somebody's coming down the stairs. Is it like the angry uncle that is coming down the stairs? Or is it the angry aunt that is coming? One minute they're sweet. Like he said, there was a lot of dysfunctional behavior. And I have an observation here. Somehow Eckhart in his vibrational field attracts people that are dysfunctional. Because he in the most recent talks, he always talks about a family member, but in a very old talk or a Q&A, he said that his father married a woman, so his stepmother had what is it called, paranoia, where they think, oh, the CIA is following me and somebody's watching me with binoculars all day. And Eckhart says that's their job all day, to sit and watch his stepmom. And she would like very curiously look at Eckhart and think, like suspect that he is up to something, right? So you want to speak to that, April? Thank you.
Unblock myself, unmute myself. I remember that talk of his, and in the context that he puts it in, yeah, I think that we do have those different fragments of ourselves, different parts of ourselves. I just had this conversation with a client the other day. Now, are there multiple personalities? Yes, I have had a couple in my career of actual multiple personality people where, you know, one person is a chef and one person is this or that. I've had, you know, people with the schizophrenia, the paranoia as well. But what I was describing to a client the other day is one of the bigger coping skills in life is to, like I talked about last week, is to put yourself into the energy that you want to be in. Set yourself into that energy as a preparation. So when I would drive to work, I would, drive to work as a normal person, and whatever. I don't drink coffee. I would drink tea, and I'm driving and people are pulling out in front of me, and just normal person. But when I got into that driveway and I got ready to go in, when I stepped out of my car, I'm now counselor. And when I am counselor, nothing affects me, period. I don't take anything personally. Nothing bothers me at all. I'm in counselor mode. So I agree. I do think that we do that to a certain extent. When I'm out with my friends, I'm not necessarily counselor. It's different, right? And then there's mom mode. So I do agree that we do wear different hats, that we do, take on, engage different energy sets. And it is required here on earth to do that. Now, you can do all of those in presence, but we do take on those different energies. And I actually use those energies as a coping skill to be present, right? I couple it with presence. When I'm being mom, I'm trying to be mom, but I'm also trying to listen, and I'm trying to, communicate energetically and verbally. I'm here for you. I love you. So, but I do think that, yes, we have those different energies.
And so, what if you encountered a multiple personality disorder? What was the healing for that person, or how did they progress, or did they come to terms with their multiple personalities?
Well, the ones that I've had in my career, honestly, they didn't stay in treatment long enough to get to the integration part. We only got to the awareness part, except for I had one that there's a couple different diagnoses in that field, in that sector of multiple personality, where one is that they actually have different personalities. Another part of that disorder is they disassociate. So I had a person that there was a certain block of the day that would disappear every day. It would just disappear, it would be gone. Had no clue what they did, would make they would work and they would do things, but had no recollection of it. And it happened to be the same time that the abuse would happen. Right. So we had that recollection. And actually one of the exercises was similar to what Kelly was talking about that one time with the watch, where the watch would bring you back to presence. It's kind of like the rubber band on the wrist. So we actually set an alarm to bring the person back to presence at that time. So presence power is still the answer. Still the answer.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're welcoming Caesar as well. Caesar is here, who is our channel on the panel, and as well as a spiritual teacher. Good evening, Caesar. So Ken, did you want to talk about this, since you have a little bit of a background? You actually attended the group meditation and listened to Eckhart speak.
Yes, thank you. No, it's a good topic. And it reminds me of a book that I read, and I forgot the author's name, and it's The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. It was a lady who wrote it, and she talks about the different subpersonalities that we all have. And they emerge at different times. And so, and along with what Eckhart was talking about the different parts of ourselves that do emerge, all with other people, that we can shift and switch our personality depending on where we are at, and also what's happening in our life. If we're around certain people, it could be It could be day, night, watching a movie. Anything can trigger these different parts of us. And it's funny, and I know with myself, with family of origin, if I'm around my mother or my father or different brothers, different aspects of me would come out. So it's something where I'm very, very familiar with those different parts of me. And depending on how I'm wounded, depending on how I grew up, and to me, I call them missing pieces in my development. And I feel like whatever I'm going through, and a lot of that is with this group, it's something where I know it's no accident. And the experience that I'm going through, I just have to be aware, and the magic happens. And then one person says one thing, and then another person says something. And so if we're in alignment to different energies, then different things will happen. And I'm so loving how much with Eckhart that I'm understanding him more and more, because that aspect of myself, I feel, is getting used to his mannerisms, in the way he talks, in the different things that he says. So it's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun just to be aware and notice how different people are reacting, and what they're saying, how they're either interacting or they're trying to make excuses not to react. Are they criticizing? Are they judging? Are they inspired? So these are all the different parts of us that I feel like are working through the wounded parts of ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. So the reason why I bring this up is, since we are in the month of holidays and getting family together. So Caesar, what we are talking about is this talk that Eckhart had, The Source of All Trust. And he gives this example of living with different roommates. Like, he rented out 2 of his rooms of his cottage when he was living in London. And he said that you wouldn't know who's coming down the stairs. Is it like the angry uncle, like dysfunctional? He encountered a lot of dysfunctional behavior from normal human beings. So he was saying in that talk, if I remember it correctly, he was saying one single human is not one. We think that it is just one person, but they have multiple. That single person can have multiple sets of almost personalities, and you don't know which personality. So, the talk is about trust. So you're saying, I cannot trust this person, or I may say, oh, I cannot trust Joan or Jane, like this person, Jane, but next day that person may be very trustworthy. Right? They may be untrusting in that moment, but next minute that they'll be here for me. So that's what he's trying to explain in the talk. So you want to speak to them? What is your interpretation of this whole change of personalities? Thank you.
So the whole change of personalities is something that I've been working on for several years, as far as not playing the role of a boss when I'm out in the field, not playing the role of a father. I just tried to be this empty space of nothingness, to be the same I am constantly. And my guys at work know that, or my coworkers, I should say. The children know that. Everybody that I'm in a relationship with, family or not, knows that. The ones that I am close to. So I don't get to wear the many hats that I used to. Because that to me is like the egoic, and I loved what April was saying, how you can use that as a coping mechanism. However, that got me into, I'll say, a lot of drama. It caused a lot of drama, and it was tiring to wear the many hats, so to speak, instead of just being this empty space of all allowing and all awareness. As far as the trust goes with people, so I make myself very vulnerable, I guess, in a sense. However, um, much of everything don't affect me. Um, and it's not because of a trusting thing or a lack of trust. I guess I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Um, what could they really do to me? Um, not much. Because if you don't take things personal, what could really affect the being? It can affect the conditioned mind, the egoic mind. It could affect that for sure. But the deep I is untouchable when it comes to things like that. What others, inflict on you, in that sense. So I don't really have a trust or distrust for anybody anymore, so to speak. I mean, there is a memory trace that resides in me that if somebody didn't pay me back money that I lent, I'm probably not going to lend them money again. I don't know if that has something, probably not trustworthy. Um, uh, but I try to just make myself available on any level that I can with people. If I've gotten quote unquote, burned by somebody, the whole loyalty thing to me is out the window. That's just it's just a word that points to something that's almost obsolete anymore. But loyalty to what? Be loyal to yourself. I see it on Facebook, or used to. I'm very little on Facebook anymore, but um, I seen it a lot. Loyalty is nobody's loyal no more. And well, what is loyalty? Be loyal to yourself, right? People will come and go throughout your lifetimes. Is that got something to do with trust? You trust this person is going to stick around with you through thick and thin, and roll the next 40 years with you on your, at your company or as a friend. They may not, and if they venture or I venture, then that's what it was supposed to be. That's the path we're on. And we know, the law of impermanence, all that is will not be someday. So, um, trust, distrust, I just let things be as they are and not really get caught up in that. And as far as dealing with people, and I do every day, that wears the many hats and who's going to walk through the door today. Very familiar with that. And I just look at it in one or two ways. Either they're awake or they're not. They're conscious or they're not conscious. And that's the end of the story. There is no, my guys used to say, why do people act like that? And I'd give them one reason, unconscious, buddy. Now they get it. But really that's when it boils down to it, that's what it is. And that's all you need to know. There's no sense in trying to figure out things. I spend very little time in my life figuring out the why to anything anymore. I just don't feel like the why matters much anymore. This is what it is. If it's something I can improve on, I may have to delve into it and figure out the why. But I find 9 out of 10 times I don't. Um, things just happen the way they do for a reason. A lot of it's got to do with, like Ken said, what are you aligning with? Where's your frequency set today? What's showing up in your life? That's a pretty good indicator on where you're at, vibrationally. Same thing with emotions, very important to pay attention, because them are it's our guidance system. And, as they would say, that tells us where we're at, vibrationally. And it's a good thing to check in every now and again, even if you're like, I try to stay in like an excited mode all day. And it's fun because the next stuff, the things that pass through my life on a daily basis it's just all exciting to me. It just rolls out and it's just exciting. We laugh all day. Work is not like work. Everything's like just a play of energy, really. Then, you're dancing with another energy, throughout the day. There's a couple guys on some other sites, that we have a play of words with, and it's fun because we interact in this, and we're learning from each other. We're feeding off each other. But I know every time that a couple guys show up on that end, I know who I'm getting. It's the conscious people. And it's great because I use that as a tool to learn and to progress my journey as well. So trust or distrust, back to the question. Um, don't know. I just see things as they are and let them be as they will. And if you get me, you get me, I guess. If if you got me before, you're probably not going to get me again. If you do, that's fine too, because nothing really affects the deep being.
Thank you so much, Caesar. So I wanted to discuss this over and over again so that as y'all meet your relatives all over again and they show a personality, a different personality, just realize every single human is very many people. It's not the same. Don't expect it to be, oh, she was kind to me last week. What happened to her? Now she's so anxious, or she's so angry, or he's so angry. Kind of. So one of the things it's amazing that a book written in 1973, Nature of Personal Reality, Seth is talking about this personality called Augustus, who is a multiple personality, right? Augustus supposedly was made to suppress his emotions. Like, you know how people say you have to be a gentleman, you're in a middle-class family, you have to suppress your emotions. So he couldn't express his aggression. So he developed this other personality, which they call Augustus II. And that personality actually murdered Augustus's neighbor. Like maybe there was an altercation and the other personality actually murdered the neighbor and was very promiscuous, whereas Augustus had a wife and he had he led a normal life, right? So what Seth says is when you have that split personality, what happens is an event like a car accident or an event like a terminal illness like cancer, what is happening is your personality is merging. The good personality is calling the other personality to merge through the illness. So if y'all see anybody that is going through a terminal illness, isn't it amazing just to sit back and say, oh, this person had multiple personalities and all that is happening through this event is their personalities are merging. They're integrating more and more as a human being, right? There's an evolution of consciousness. Like since we are in this group and we are wanting all of us to evolve in our consciousness, they don't feel bad that somebody is having a negative, an event, life situation that we may call so-called negative, that, oh, this person has cancer, or this person has met with a car accident, or this person has some major surgery going on, right? You just know that that personality is merging and they're evolving in their consciousness. So I wanted to offer that. And I'll find that excerpt from Nature of Personal Reality after we are done. So I'll try and find which section he talks about Augustus and this merging of the person, that a car accident actually means that the personalities are merging. So thank you, everyone, April, Ken, and Caesar. And we move to Patricia. Patricia, you have something to say about this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I actually recently was watching also a documentary on Netflix about personality, about brain, and use of the tests. Because, people take tests to find out what personality am I. So there's different tests, different thing. One has 4 types, the other has 7 types, another one has 16 types. So I was just, reading about the definition of personality. And it says that it's a collection of personal traits which are thought to occur together consistently, especially as determined by a certain pattern of responses. So one of those, ways to categorize it is extroverts versus introverts. and people that are better with facts and data, or people that are better than with relationships. So it's like it creates that, you know, four thing. Are you an extrovert that is good with facts or data? Then I think they call it driver. You know, so it's like then it's introvert that is good with data and stuff. So that's analytical mind. And they, you know, they categorize. So I'm thinking that if we are if we have certain tendencies to respond, no matter what role we take, like April said, you know, if she's in the role of a mother, or you know, the therapist, or you know, or even a friend, she will still be April. I mean, you know, she's playing a different role in relation to the person, but she still would have, you know, similar approach. She's either, you know, very talkative and, you know, asking like the extrovert, or someone that would really always be in the back, just listening, observing. So, you know, roles, I think, are a little different than personality, because, and I think when Eckhart was talking about this, I think what he meant was that it's being conscious versus unconscious. So if a person is in that relaxed state when his front, you know, brain works a little more, so he's more spacious and conscious, then we can rely and have a conversation. And if there is a problem, they will be open for discussion. But if they're not conscious, then they would like explode with anger, with, you know, with fight, with like, because their back brain is reacting more. So that's why when he said we can't really trust, because depending on the day and your level of consciousness, you could react differently to situations. So I think that the only thing you could trust is that, like Eckhart says, that person will always act depending on their level of consciousness in that moment. So, you know, if we have a friend and 10 times, 9 times out of 10, when we ask the friend for a favor, they will be, you know, always happy to help. But that one time we ask and there's like, I don't have time for you or whatever. So it's like, oh, so now you don't like me, or you can, it's like you taking it personally. It's not right, because they might be in a different state. So, you know, I think that maybe that ultimate source of trust for us, and I think we do need that. We do need to trust something, because with everything changing all the time, that consciousness, a presence, like, then it gives you that peace, I think, that we are not the events that constantly changing. So if our friends or family members, situations constantly changing, it's almost a lesson to look for another 100% reliable source of trust. Because if we can trust our parents, if we can trust our kids, if we can't even trust ourselves, what can we trust? And that bringing yourself, you know, April said, you know, she, no matter what role she takes, she is present. So the presence is always that trustworthy. No matter what, no matter role, no matter the situation, we can only trust our own presence, I think. You know, the ability to be conscious, and then that out of that state of awareness, present moment of awareness, we will find the answer or not, but we will. It's like when he says, you know, he comes out on the stage and he doesn't know what he's going to talk about. He doesn't have this anxiety. Oh my God, what role am I going to play? If I'm going to tell a joke, it's like if I'm going to have an answer. He just trusts, I think, completely. And that's why it's so powerful. He trusts completely the presence. And it proved that it worked for him, right? I mean, he has plenty to say always, or he just sits there for a minute and quiet. So I think that's where the trust comes from. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So what this personality is, it's not the personality, which is the Myers-Briggs personality. The personality is a vibrational frequency. Like when he says that that person is coming down with, like somebody may be feeling guilt, like Caesar just pointed out, right? Like that anger is within you. So somebody may be walking downstairs feeling guilty, vibrationally vibrating at guilt, and you say something and they're going to feel like a victim. Right? You'd say, why did you not do the dishes? Like if it's a roommate, what kind of conversation are you going to have with the roommate? You may say, why did you leave the dishes in the sink? And the moment they go, why do you always have to pick on me? Right? But the personality that is coming out, and 2 days back, they may be somebody that actually was laughing it off and having a good time with you, right? And now they're exploding on you because they are coming downstairs with guilt. So all those are just vibrational frequencies. Like Lakshmi has gone through over the workshops, right? That we are stuck in our chakras. April has done the chakra description in her courses, in her sessions that she's led, that they're stuck in the first, second, or third chakras with the guilt and the shame and those are just vibrational frequencies, right, April?
Yeah, so I think everybody's right. I think like Caesar said, you know, how do I explain this? We have a personality, yes, and it does have certain traits. But when I was saying, you know, these are different energy states that I step into. But I try to carry presence with me. Now, you guys, I'm not by any means trying to say I'm perfect. There are certain people in my life that my presence sometimes just goes out the window. I don't even know where it is. Okay, this isn't a perfection thing. This is a journey, right? And there are certain people that do get in the, you know, metaphor under my skin type. And I have to really work at, like Poonam always says, I need more presence power. Where's my charger? I'm running out of juice, right? It is something that happens. So do we have a personality? Yes, we have a personality. Does my personality or my energy change in different situations? Yes, it does change. When we are triggered, it is because some sort of trauma, whether it is from this lifetime, another lifetime, 5 years old, 25 years old, is stuck in our energy field. It is stuck in our chakra. And unfortunately, trauma has layers. So when somebody walks in and accuses me of not doing the dishes, and I've already had a bad day, and something happened to me at work, and then my daughter was rude to me, I'm like, what the F do you care if I did dishes or not, right? My presence is out the window. So yes, and that is an energy state. That is an agitated energy state, right? So now, so the statement was, so I want to clear up two things. One is the chakras carry information about our life, our lifetimes, and there are layers to them, and they do need to be cleared out. And the lower three chakras are the physical plane. The heart is the center, it's the merger, and then we start going up. But the throat chakra is one that can also be part of the physical plane. It can also hold a lot of abuse and trauma in the throat chakra. It's also one of the chakras for manifestation, speaking up, your voice, all of that. So it is linked. And if your chakras are off balance, or if you haven't cleared out trauma, then you will have a certain personality that is always angry, or that is sad, or that is quiet, or jealous, or whatever. Your personality, so the personality and the trauma is linked, and your personality does bleed into the roles along with the trauma. So how do I explain this? Like, okay. So you know, like I have issues with my neck, right? So I'll give you guys an example of me. So because I was in such severe pain at that time, and this is recently, like within the last few weeks, I decided that I was going to go to, on top of all the other things I was trying, I was going to go to an acupuncturist. And I go there and she runs some energy through my body, through this, it's wires. It was wires and acupuncture, but we did a meditation. And she had me go up to my God source, which if you say go to your God source, everybody instantly knows where to go. Like everybody knows where the God source is. Go to source. So I did that, but she walked me through this meditation where I came to before I was born. And all of a sudden these tears just start streaming down my face. This is root chakra stuff. This is also the sacral chakra. These are first two chakras, and then it runs into the third chakra. I'm not crying for me. I thought I already dealt with all my garbage, right? I'm supposed to be this big teacher, right? I am crying because my mother didn't really want to be pregnant.
Oh, wow.
That's a layer. That's a layer. That's stuck in my root chakra. That hits my self-esteem. And I find that I'm carrying this trauma. So because my mom didn't really want to be a mom, as you guys know, as I said before, my mom had a lot of resentment regarding being a mom. It was a lot of pressure for her. Statements would come out like my mom loved me and I love my mom, but things would come out like, you guys just want to take from me. That's that pattern. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you make the connection now? So that bled into her personality of her role of mom, right? It's how they link. So yes, we have roles, we have personalities, we have energy, chakra, trauma. It all links up and it does bleed into. So when you are at a gathering, you're at a party, you're at the Christmas party, you're at the aunt's house, the family, you have to realize that every person is carrying all these things together, and it leads into their role, into their personality. Why does that person not do that for their kids? Well, because for them, it's too much pressure. Why? Because maybe some part of them didn't want to have kids. Maybe they didn't want to be a mom yet. Maybe they want to be a career person. Okay, so this is where the compassion comes in, the understanding, the unconditional love, and you say, okay, well, this person hasn't reached that level of consciousness yet. Right? Now, I'm not talking about people or things or kids that are in danger. We're not going there. I'm just saying in general, if you just step back and realize that most likely that person is functioning at the best they can at the moment. Well, they should try. They should do this. They should do that. They don't have what you have. They don't have that yet. They're not there yet. Just like in recovery. How many times does somebody come back to me for recovery? Multiple. Why? Because they're not there yet. But you know what? They'll get there. And that's where Eckhart is able to look at everybody and go, something tragic happens, and he giggles because he knows they will get there, right? But they have to go through whatever. So this is how the energy, the chakras, the roles, and the personality blend into each other. That's how they do it. And how you deal with it is unconditional love and acceptance of that's where they're at. That's okay. I'm going to send you some love and some energy, and I know you're on your journey. And I know you picked that journey. I didn't pick it. You picked it. So when you get to the other side, just like me, I'll be having a conversation with myself. And that'll be a check on what I was doing. So let me know if that makes sense, or if you guys don't understand.
Yes. Perfect sense. Incredibly amazing. Thank you.
Yes,
You explained it very, very well.
absolutely.
One of the topics that I wanted to bring up that's unrelated to what we were talking about. I know a lot of members on the Facebook group have, and they're close, right? People who come as a core group of meditators have relatives like mothers and fathers that they are taking care of, that maybe on their last last few years, like they have Alzheimer's or dementia or different stages, right? One of the things I wanted to discuss, April, is the compassion of when a human being, what I've noticed, and I went through this, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is my mother in 2016 went through brain aneurysm. Like she had a brain aneurysm, so she was on life support. So I actually, because of Eckhart's teachings, I had enough understanding and compassion that soul already during the brain aneurysm was leaving the body. Now, yeah, when you bring the person to the doctor takes, what is it called? The Hippocratic oath. So they have to keep that body alive, right? Somehow put that body on machines and make it breathe and make it kind of like, but it's lying, right? I actually know a friend that her husband, not ex-husband, her husband was in that kind of intubation. Is that what it's called? Intubated for a year. How much of a torture is that? And that's the part I had to explain to my brother, right? Being intubated that way, we are actually torturing that soul, right? The soul wants to exit the body, but because our mind is saying, I don't want this physical form to leave me, my mother or my father, I want this, like the ego says, right, this is mine. And then I had to explain it to him that the most compassionate thing we can do for her is remove her life support and allow that soul to either live through that body or exit that body. But all these machines and the doctors trying to, I don't know how people are feeling. It's a very sensitive topic. I mean, I was able to do, presence does that. You bring the sword of presence and you directly like talk about it. So I wanted you to speak to it. Can you be that, have that much compassion that soul is leaving the body and let it go?
I think that I could at this point where I am, because I understand, just like you're saying, I understand what's happening and why. But prior in my life, probably not. Probably no, I would, hang on and want them to, be around forever. But I do think at the same time that if a person is put on life support for however long, and there's been some people on it for many, many years, that you still leave when it's your time. But I do agree that I just had this conversation with a client of trying to explain that you can love unconditionally, you can care, you can have compassion, you can have empathy, but not be attached. And that's a very hard concept to understand. It's very, because for most people, they think, well, if I'm not attached, then I don't really love them. But when you get into this field and you get on this journey, you start to realize, actually, I can love you so much.
I can let you go.
I can let you go. I can let you make your mistakes. I can let you go through your illness or whatever, because I know. Yeah. So that's the way I look at it, is learning to not be attached, learning that everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, and knowing. I just go back to source, and I just know that I know that I know that source is in charge, and I am part of that, and I'm okay, and they are okay, and it's okay. And again, this doesn't mean that it's always fun. It doesn't mean that when I take mom off of life support, I'm not going to cry, right? When
That's
my
too.
mother, right, when my mother died, I went in, she was on the floor. I walked in and I literally said, Mother, what are you doing? She's gone. She's been gone. I said, what are you doing? Get off the floor. You have to get up. And so it's not that I didn't cry. It's not that I didn't say to her. And my mother believed in all of this. So I was like, what are you doing? Get up, you know? So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you won't have those emotions. But I certainly would, now that I know what I know, and the evolution of the spirit and being connected with source, I would definitely want somebody to go rather than be in a bed on a machine, right? I would definitely want that now. So I'll let some other people, we can come back and talk again about it if you want. That is a very touchy subject, because some people are just like, they go off the deep end with this, like, how could you
Allow your mother.
yeah.
Thank you. And that's what, like, I prayed for this friend who had her husband, that I realized it was a friend of a friend. And then the friend was explaining to me that, hey, this man has been in an assisted care. His feet, people have to realize, when your parent, I don't know how it is in most cases, but when people are lying, when a human body is lying day after day, month after month, in one prone position, infections happen, like Alzheimer's and everything. Like, they get bed sores, their feet get infected. And if you have that person in an assisted living place, right, they don't even take care, because it's not their mother or father. They don't take care of that patient really well. So his feet were getting infected, and like constant battle with the assisted living people, right? That, hey, you're not taking care of my husband. And then, but you have them on life support day after day. So Sadhguru was the one that freed me. It's like right before then, 2016, I don't know why, I was actually helping somebody through their death. So I was watching all these videos of Sadhguru on karma and on death and dying. And Sadhguru in one of the videos says, how much are you torturing a soul by just keeping them on life support, like all these medical processes that we do to keep somebody alive? I mean, is that really needed? Kind of was the gist of that video. And at that point, I like immediately understood that it is more compassionate to let go. It is more compassionate. I mean, that soul will survive. If it needs to survive, it will fight that body and survive, right? So it's up to that
Yeah.
soul.
And like you said, if it is their time, the soul's already out of the body. It's already like, okay, unplug me. Like
Yes.
it's done. It, you know, and I know that sounds cold or whatever, but it isn't. It's really true. The soul's already done with the body. It's just waiting to be able to fully detach. So it's kind of like that silver cord that runs through. You imagine a silver cord running through. It's connected up. But when the body dies, that silver cord gets severed. It gets to leave and fully go to the other side. If my body is laying in a bed, I can't do that. I can't fully go to the other side. I can't
Yep.
integrate fully with source.
And the most amazing thing happened once I had that intention, that in my meditation, I would intend that this person come to that compassion with their husband, right? That they're torturing. He passed away. Something happened within a month or so. I heard that he passed away actually. So that's what I was praying for, that soul not be tortured. That's not even connected to me, right? It's a friend and her husband, not even connected to me. So Ken, did you want to say something about this topic? I know it's a very, very sensitive topic. Sorry about that. But I wanted to bring it up. The more difficult we make our conversation, the more we shine the light on it, right? So thank you.
Yes. Well, no, this topic is very close to me because 7 years ago, my son passed away and he was on a machine and he was an alcoholic. He had wet brain. And he knew he wasn't going to stop drinking and drugging, and he knew he would die sooner or later. And he would tell me, stop blaming yourself. You're not doing this to me. I'm doing it. And I'm going to share something that was crucial for my son and I. About a year and a half before he did die, he and I got together. And that's when I kind of broke through being unconscious, that I became conscious. And he and I got together and we both bawled our eyes out. And I told him how much that I loved him. And he just bawled his eyes out and told me that I've been waiting my whole life for you to tell me that. And so both he and I, it was like such an incredible time for both of us. And we did talk about life. And then it was a little over a year later when he had another relapse and he had wet brain. He was taking some medications and he was told, you can't drink with these medications because it could kill you. And so anyway, I got a call and he was in California and they said that he's in the hospital. He is on a machine. It's not good. Can you come? So the next day I flew down and I went and saw him and I was with him and he looked fine in the hospital. And I actually prayed and talked to him and was with him. And at this point, I was okay. It's very, very similar to what April was saying about how people can take this. Because lots of times his mother her mother and I did not see eye to eye. And it was always my fault. And I knew it wasn't. And it's amazing, after he did go, I'll get to that in a minute. So it took 6 days and they explained about the respirator. And I knew that I should take them off. But one of the times I went to the hospital, I actually put my head in my ear on his heart. And I prayed and I said, Kenny, I know you can hear me. And he was talking to me by the pulsating of his heart.
Wow.
And I said, it's time for you to go. It's okay. And his heart calmed right down. And so, and I knew enough because of some of the conversations and especially the time when we were together about loving one another and me being with him. It was like almost as if I could see everything about the addiction or how I wasn't there, whatever. And then I actually let go of it being my fault. It wasn't my fault. And so that was the miracle for me. And after Kenny passed, literally, his mother, Maureen, called me up the next day and says, you won't believe what happened. She's crying. And she says, I'm so sorry I blamed you all this time, but Kenny came through last night in a dream and said, stop blaming your father, Dad, Ma, it is not Dad's fault. And he said, I want you to look in the sky and I want you to know that I'm okay. And she took a picture of a letter K in a cloud form the next night. So these things that happen, you know, with spirit, and from that time on, 7 years ago, we get along unbelievable. And now his mother and I have actually made amends, and both, just like with Kenny, cried our eyes out. And we both said, wow, this is something we had to go through this lifetime. So anyway, it's just amazing how all of this energy and how spirit works, and surrendering and just knowing things that are on the other side. So, and ever since then also, I've had mediumships and I've had Kenny come in. And the last time I saw him, he had a Yankees cap on. And it's like one of the mediumships I went that I had, Kenny, the medium says, who's wearing a Yankees cap? And he's laughing. And he actually said, I'm with Gramps. Do you believe it? Gramps and I, because my father died 12 years ago. And he says, I'm with Gramps. Do you believe it, Dad? We're playing baseball. So, but it was just so many things. And I know, and then his mother and I now, and it's miraculous. It's like, it's just, it's been one miracle after another, doing the work and understanding how important it is, you know, to have these spiritual awakenings. So thank you.
I want to take a minute, Ken.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Incredible, right? You wouldn't believe it, Ken. Thank you so much for sharing that. But right before this Facebook Live Q&A started, April told Patricia, your daughter chose you as a parent. Your son chose you as a parent. Your son chose that life lesson, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, it's so much, how much I'm learning from my son. It's in what he has showed me after I woke up, and realizing now how much available I am to others that needed that. So the sacrifices we do make, our spirit in us, with what they make, with the sacrifices, it's almost like there's a whole nother language on the other side of all the pain and suffering. And I love what you say, Poonam, about it's not happening to us, it's happening for us in ways that our human self cannot explain.
And that is what exactly the week that my mom was in the hospital, I kept meditating, going into meditation and telling her exactly what you did to your son, Ken. I kept telling her, stop your attachment. She is very bonded to my, her grandson, my nephew, right? My brother's son. She's very bonded to him. So I kept telling her, I'll take care of him. Let go, let go. Let go of him, let go. Because that soul is attached to something, right? In this plane, in this 3D plane. And you want to tell them it's okay because I know that they're going to return to infinite love. I mean, with Anita Moorjani, all the near-death experiences, we know that they return to infinite love. So why wouldn't you want them to, why are they tortured in that body? Why wouldn't you want that soul to return to infinite love? They can come back in the next lifetime, right? So to let go was the most precious, priceless thing that you have empowered him, empowered that soul to say, let go of this body, let go of these relationships, let go of the soul contract, right? Whatever souls you have contract with, it's okay. You can start another life, right? In another plane, in that plane, in the other realm, or you can come back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Infinite gratitude, Ken. That was like it was like a knockout punch conversation. I just wanted to have this conversation because I've heard so many people going through, like a couple of our core group of meditators have moms that have Alzheimer's. So
Yes, and it's funny because with all this happening, his mother now actually goes into groups and helps mothers dealing with their kids who have passed, who are having a hard time. And she says that, and so she's thanked me for helping her. And then when Kenny used to come through too on the mediumship, she would say, Dad, you're probably the only one that can help Ma.
beautiful.
She doesn't understand. So you gotta keep, because Kenny used to always say that I was really tough. And so it was really, it's just almost like everything, all the stuff that comes through that was very painful and whatnot, and you realize that all this happened for a reason. So it's just absolutely incredible. So, and I'm just so thankful being on this group that I feel like this is just something where I know where I'm at, everything that I've been through. Now I'm finally expressing, and you were talking about the throat chakra, and I feel like I'm finally expressing what has been held in for a long time. So
Beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you for being a demonstration of what exactly I was trying to explain, that there's a compassion in letting go.
Yes.
Our ego may say, I want this. My mother is never going to be able to hold me. That's the first thought I had once she passed away. Now, never is she ever going to hug me. Never am I going to eat any food that she's cooked. She was a really good cook. And never am I going to be able to kiss her, right? So the physical loss, you have to have that body shaking, nerve, the heaving kind of sadness, right? And then presence prevails. So it passes. This too shall pass.
Yes.
After all that sadness. So I had it, like it was strange. I was here in the US and I knew when she passed away, and I felt like a surge of heavy sadness, and I cried and cried for an hour and a half, but then I never cried for her after that. Like it was like just that sadness left me and it was done. And then back to understanding, presence Citizens Rules.
I went through that. I watched the movie The Shack, and I cried for an hour and a half during the movie. And it was all for my son. That was 6 years ago, the year after he passed. And it was unbelievable. And it was so funny. There was only myself and 3 other people in the theater. And there was another man, and he was crying with me. And at the end of the movie, his wife says, "I don't believe it. I didn't know there was another man that could cry like my husband." But it was just something. But it was so, everything was so touching. But oh, the tears and the deep, 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 deep letting go through all that crying was miraculous. So anyway.
So that's another thing I would say is anytime you have a loss, feel it, experience it completely, because
Absolutely.
that's the release, that's the cleansing. If not, it'll turn into the pain body, right? So
Yeah.
Caesar, you want to follow that?
Okay. Thank you, Ken, for sharing that. Condolences to you, buddy. So yeah, I had a similar situation with my father when he passed. He had a thing against hospitals. Stayed out of them for 40 years. He knew he was sick. My cousin called the ambulance when they got pissed off, and so we bagged him just to go. We said, "You can leave whenever you want." So he went. They told him, "If you go home tonight, you're going to die tonight," and that's what he did. And his reason being was that he did not want to put the family through the pain and agony of watching him sit there and lay on a life support for, however long. So it was a very unselfish move. But I got, I had a deep conversation with him that evening because we knew he was going to go and he knew he was going. So, the conversation was deep, and that taught me right there what it meant to let go. So, I mean, I felt very blessed to be able to say my goodbyes. Somebody's going, and it's crazy. My mother, on the other hand, she thought she had a stroke, wound up with a brain aneurysm. She went to the hospital. She was on blood thinners already, so they couldn't do surgery for a week. Within that week, she lost all her speech, and she was paralyzed on the left side. They did the surgery. It was glioblastoma, and surgery went great. Long story short, she wound up going into a rehab, it was in a hospital, and then they moved her to an assisted living facility it was almost like a nursing home, but it was only supposed to be temporary. And I went there, and my mom spent her whole life saying, if I ever get sick and they put me on all kinds of medications where I don't know my son or my daughter when they walk through the door, let me go or get me off that shit. Sorry. And I went and seen her, and she was so doped up she didn't even recognize me. So I yanked her out of there, got in a big loft. It was crazy. I mean, the police actually came over and tried to arrest me for taking my mom out of the place. They said it was not legal to do that. But nevertheless, I got my way, and she ended up passing a few days later anyways. That was the blessing there again. It was her time, and again, it was about that letting go. And that's when I learned again, attachment is when you're holding a baby dove, to the point where it wants to fly, but you got it just tight enough where he can't. Love is holding it just a little bit looser, so when he wants to fly, he can. And that's the fine line between love and attachment. I believe it is a very fine line, and I believe most of the people kind of confuse the attachment, for love. Attachment says, you're here to make me happy. Love says, I'm here to make you happy. That's the way I see it. Letting go it's a practice. And we have many opportunities to do so during the day. When people talk about something, my guys do it all the time. They'll either be a little angry or they'll be a little sad about something that happened the evening prior. And I always say, I let them tell their story, and I give them 100% of my attention. And then I say, when did that happen? And they go, just last night. And I'm like, leave it there. This is today already. And now they're starting to catch on, and it's nice to see because they're telling each other that now, so it's cool. But it is a practice for sure. And it all boils down to, acceptance. And it is selfish to want to keep somebody in that state of life support, when they're not really even there. My brother was hit by a car. He was on life support for, I believe, 3 days. And that was only because we wanted to get another doctor's opinion on whether or not he could, if he could come out of it, and what his, prognosis might be, what the quality of life might be if he did come out of it. And it was, I guess, pretty bleak to say the least. And so we took him off life support immediately. There's no sense of watching that or keeping him bound to that, to the body. And some of the family, the kids took it really hard. They wasn't sure if that was the right thing to do or not. They were younger, they were in their teens, and it took a lot of explaining and conversation to get them to understand, about what this shell is and what, inhabits the shell. I don't think we, I don't know, does consciousness inhabit the body? Anyways, yeah, so it's a practice, letting go, and it really kind of boils down to acceptance, the isness of the situation. And I always, I cried when my mom died, I cried when my dad died, I cried when both my brothers died, I cried when my pet died. And that's okay, and then it's over. It's just the release, like you said. It's almost like the cleansing. It's taking all that, hurt, the realization that you're not going to be, able to, share the joy of the other person any longer is, it's devastating to a human. That's just the way we're wired. And that cleansing part, is about getting it all out, and then through that we accept it fully. And just like, the 5 stages of the grievance process, I think the last one being acceptance, it's there for a reason. It's almost designed to get you to where it hurts so bad that you just have to accept it and let it go. And that's another thing, that we should practice always, is acceptance. We have many opportunities, maybe thousands, during the course of a day. The little things that happen to us during the course of the day. Somebody says something we don't like. Something happens that's not favorable to, what we were trying to achieve. We hear something that wasn't pleasant to the ears. We say something that we didn't mean to say. These are all just opportunities to practice acceptance. And the reason we should do so is because when the bigger situations, as Ken explained, happen, we are able to do so almost naturally and compassionately, and know that it's out of our hands, it's out of our control. We are in control of nothing in this lifetime. So yeah, always, as far as when something like that goes, death is never an easy thing to accept. But again, opportunities throughout the day makes that possible. And again, that's not personal. When somebody passes, they always say, people say, I lost blah blah. I lost so and so. As Eckhart says, nothing is really ours, right? Our kids are not even ours. Sure, we birthed them. We've had a responsibility to protect them and maybe put them on the right path. But in the long run, the big picture, no, they're not ours. We don't own anything. And then some people don't understand that. And maybe we would say them are the unconscious ones. I fully understand it. I believe it to be true. That doesn't mean that, when things happen with our children versus not our children, we take it a little more personal. Because why? Because that's my son or my daughter. But the fact of the matter is that try to almost treat everybody like they are my son or my daughter. And that has enabled myself to really express my love for the oneness, of everybody and everything. I get criticized a lot because if I see a animal, I'm going to stop, and if it's kicking on the side of the road or whatever, I'm going to do whatever I can. I don't care at whatever expense, or I got to be at an appointment or whatever the case. It doesn't matter. That's going to come first 100% of the time. Um, you know, and I did it with a squirrel the other day, and my guy said, "Really?" And things like barely breathing, but it's still breathing. So we either put it out of its misery or try to help it. And I said, "What if that was your daughter laying there in the street kicking?" He went, "Wow." But that's almost the approach that we should take with one another. We're all brothers and sisters in the end, right? We're all the children of each other. And if you can really have that approach, you love everybody the same. I do anyways. I used to love my mom different than I loved my dog, and I loved my dog different than I loved my kids, and I loved my pasta, different than I loved the, a squirrel. But today is just one love, and it's a steady outpouring, almost like on the teetering of laughing and crying, the expression of love. To me, it is. And it's a beautiful way to live. It's hard to get angry at anybody anymore. And back to the subject matter, letting go and, a person in that situation. I guess it depends on the situation perhaps, but yeah, it's probably always best to let go, instead of when when the prognosis is bleak and the quality of life isn't such. You got to really bear down and ask, why are we? Because if it's in your control, you are the one that's responsible, to pull the plug or not. You have to ask yourself why. What is the point? Am I doing this as a selfish reason, or am I going to do this as a compassionate reason, with you not being involved in the equation of that person's quality of life, whether that soul is attached to the body and bound by it or not? And if you have the power, the capabilities to release that and make that not so, as to put that soul through that torture with that body, then that is a decision one must make at that time. And I would hope that it would be done compassionately, and not as a selfish reason, because most of the times we do keep people around on life support, it is for selfish reasons. We don't want to let them go. And it's hard to say goodbye, and it's hard to let them go. But like April said, many of the times the soul has already left anyways. I fully believe that. So, always act out of love and compassion. Take yourself out of the equation when it involves a decision for another. Let them be at the basis of your decision on what you do, what's best for them, not you.
Thank you, Caesar. One of the things that you said was your father already knew. And this is one thing I wanted to ask before I go to Patricia. I wanted to ask April and Caesar was, don't souls already know before they're about to leave? Like a few, like my mom. So my mom passed away end of March, 16th of, like about 16th or 17th of March, she asked me, unusually, she's never asked me for pictures. She said, take pictures of every room of your home and take a picture of your son and yourself and send it to me, like on WhatsApp. And the next week she has a brain aneurysm, and then like she's in coma for a week, and then she passed the following week. Within 2 weeks of asking that, she's never asked me for pictures ever, right?
Yeah, I think 100% they know. April, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And some know, some even know, like you've had the one, Caesar, where they know from a young age. So you have those that they just know, I'm not making it past 36. Like I'm just not. But yeah, every soul knows. Even if your mom wasn't awake, her soul still knew. That's why she asked for the pictures.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
I had our singer passed. Was in a band a while back. We just got signed to a record deal, and we were asked. We got paid a lot of money to write an album, and the whole album was written by. It was co-written with other people in the band with the singer. He did 90% of the writing, and I knew when he was writing it, he was about to go. And I said, "We don't ever get off the ground here." And I said, "Listen to the lyrics. He's telling you something." And then I confronted him about it. And he said, "What are you talking about?" He had no idea. But if you listen back to that entire album, he's saying goodbye. Every song was just like, this is it. And it was almost subliminal to him, but I think subconsciously he knew.
Oh,
But when
wow.
he was writing from that place of consciousness. And it wasn't a sad, and it wasn't dark music, and it wasn't, depressing. And the message was so uplifting. And it kind of, it touches on so many different things, but just an amazing message in each and every song. And if, it took my bandmates years to listen to it, to really listen to it, and then called me and said, "Dude, you were right. I can't believe it. It was crazy." But yeah, I've seen it too many times. Yes.
They knew, right? Can
We
you
might
feel?
not go up front in the foreground of things. We may not know, because the mind gets in the way. But subconsciously, deep within, the soul knows exactly that moment, always. And as it gets nearer, that becomes a little more a little more upfront in the person. It becomes a little more prevalent, and it expresses itself a little more as to ask for them pictures and say goodbyes. So.
Exactly. Like very. So did you feel that about your son? And my deepest condolences on the passing away of your son as well.
Yes.
Did you feel that he already knew? And that soul is saying, my contract is up, right?
Oh, without a doubt. 6 months before he passed, the way he was talking to me and the way he was talking to his mother, he wanted to make sure we were okay.
Beautiful.
He was so concerned, wasn't about him. He wanted to make sure that she was okay and I'm okay. And he used to tell me, he says, "Dad, you understand things that Ma doesn't. You're the only one." And he while he was alive. And I'm like, "Kenny, why are you saying those things?" And he would pretty much say, "I don't really know." There was things that he would say, but now this is being confirmed. I can't believe that how this topic's coming up again for me, but you can't believe how the bits and pieces that are coming from April and coming from Caesar and you, I'm like, oh, so I'm seeing attachment in a way that I wasn't. And I realized that, yeah. And so I've learned a while ago that when we keep going through something, keep going through it, there's the two energies that are going at it. And eventually one gets weaker, and then we make that transformation, or then we start to let go or surrender. So there's so much with this conversation tonight that's helping me to understand other bits and pieces. And so, yes.
Beautiful.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bring some healing to everyone. That's what we are here for. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Patricia, you want to wrap it up? Say something about this topic?
I actually wanted to ask a question, because I first thought that I have really nothing to say because I didn't experience anything like that. But then I was thinking about it, and that afterlife kind of thing. And my dad, when I was little, used to tell me stories, bedtime stories. And I specifically remember that one that he was telling me about. And after that story, I didn't want anything to do with ghosts, with spirits, because I got so scared. I couldn't sleep the entire night. So the entire world of energy, of spirits. I just completely thought it's very scary. And the story was that, you know, he was a little boy and he was running on the field and he fell into a big hole, and it was like a quicksand kind of thing, and he couldn't get out. And then someone gave him like a stick, and he grabbed that stick, pulled himself up, and there was nobody there. So the story, in a sense, was positive, but just, I don't know, I was probably I was like 8 years old. And after that, anytime there was a mention, I can't even watch scary movies up to the day. Anytime there is some, especially even the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but when someone dies, and depending of the goodness or badness of its soul, he's either taken to heaven, which is the experience, since you guys are talking about goodness, healing, the souls know. And then you have bad people, and then you have those little bad spirits that take your soul. And I guess being raised in the Roman Catholic culture, when there was always God judging if you're bad or good, and if you're good, you're going to heaven, if you're bad, going to hell. And I guess my imagination as a child was so, you know, vivid, that I couldn't even think of bad things because I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares. And then when I came to United States and I went to the craft show, we had a table across from another lady, and we started talking about, and she was kind of like April, she was a psychic. And out of the blue, she said to me, "You have a guardian spirit that it's with you." And I looked at her so scared. It's like, oh my God, she's telling me that I have some kind of ghost. And she said, it's someone that protects you. It's like and I said, how do you know these things? It's like, don't scare me, blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, it's someone very close to you that passed because of some respiratory issues. And I said, I don't know anybody like that would do that. And then when I went home, I was thinking about it, and my grandfather, who was taken to the hospital before I left Poland because of his cholesterol levels, and his legs were, you know, he had that issue. But then he was put in the hallway because there was not enough beds in the rooms, and they didn't cover him. And he actually died within a week out of some kind of pneumonia, because of, you know, and so he went to a hospital for a different reason. And I thought that he died because of that. But then my mom told me that he died because of lungs. So I just, again, was always very afraid of thinking on that spirituality, and was afraid that if I am open to it, you know, something bad's gonna grab my soul. I don't know. So that's my experiences. And I heard of, you know, people witnessing, and, you know, close people died and just letting them go, and some kind of bliss happening. But for me, I don't want to get close to those even stories, because I had difficulties even listening today because of, you know, that part. So I don't know where it's coming from.
The soul
So,
can't be stolen. The soul can't be stolen. The soul is God. You can't steal God. How are you going to steal him?
I guess
Your
it's like
soul
getting
is
it.
part, right, your soul. So your soul is part of God, right?
Hmm.
Or is your soul part of like the tree or something, or the cow? I'm just, right? I make it silly on purpose. Your soul is part of God. Nobody can steal God. They taught us all that. I was raised Baptist. I was going to hell for everything.
For all the bad things that you did in your teenager, 12-year-old life.
Are you seriously trying to tell me that there's something that can steal God? You can create any kind of creature, angel, demon, you name it. Something is stealing God. That's not possible. It's not even possible,
Yeah.
right?
What she's saying, what April's saying is that we are an extension of God, period, which
Right.
makes us.
So, but you
Yes.
were trained with those fears. So it is a fear. It is a false fear. The cure for that is residing in the fact that you are God. Therefore, nothing can take you.
Yeah, you're always protected, Patricia. So the way that you were conditioned, I can totally relate. I was raised Roman Catholic too, and again, like April, that going to hell for everything. Well said, April. But you're always protected, honey. You do have guardian angels that watch over you. They're there to protect you. But as April says, we are an extension of God, plain and simple. You are always protected. And to know that in your times of trouble, they will be there for you to help you as well. And you will put that same smile that you wear right now. Then, so no, there's no reason to fear anything with spirits. Probably seen the bad movie, but you definitely heard the bad story. And that I could see how that could scare someone as a young child, hearing that, that an entity came, something that we can't see, smell, taste, touch, or hear. Or some of us can. However, you're protected. You're always protected. Nothing can harm you. You are always under the protection of God, for sure. So when somebody said that you had, a spirit watching over you that's close to you, spirits can never harm you, honey.
It doesn't have to be the grandfather. It can be the guardian angel. Is like every human would, not so much as every soul would have a guardian angel. And it doesn't have to be a relative. It's your guardian angel, always there with you. And what would it be like? Your inner being is always there with you. Leave alone that. If you listen to near-death experiences, Patricia, there is no hell. It is just pure, unconditional, infinite love. That's all there is. Like when this body breaks, right? And that's why I was like, my mom was sent to, like, why would I keep her tortured in this body that is causing her so much physical pain, where she can return to infinite love, right? That's what Anita Moorjani and Dr. Eben Alexander, people who have had near-death experiences, say. They return, like that whole divine love meditation that we do is on his experience, that there's a tunnel, there's a white light tunnel, and you can hear like angels singing as they're exiting the body. They're angels singing, and they see butterflies, and they may see animals like their pet dog, the spirit of the pet dog, right? But it is just a beautiful, beautiful experience. Why would you want that's why I'm saying is, why would I take that away, that experience away from my mother, just because I want her physicality of that? Or a dog, like take your pet, right? If your pet is at 14, 15, 16 years age and is like at their old age, right? 90 years old, and why are you fighting to have your pet just because you don't want to experience loss, right? If you accept, give in, the loss will be fine. But there is no hell. It is just pure, beautiful, beautiful. And one day we need to come back. Maybe next time this will be the topic. We'll go back to that soul and soul contracts. How does a soul from the other realm, so that Patricia can understand that, April. I think it's been a long
Yeah.
day. I can see it in April as well. So
I think Caesar, Abraham Hicks, she's got the best line when she talks about how there's not a hell. There's only one source. I don't care which Bible you pick the Quran, pick whatever. There's one source. But Abraham Hicks, that was the best line I ever heard. She, when you talk about somebody who's per se bad, and she says, you want to talk about like the death penalty and all of that. She's like, you don't want that bugger to leave. She said, it's all love over there. That was like the best line from her, right? You want that bugger to stay here because here's where hell is. If you're not conscious, so we'll slip that in. If you're not, but yeah, it was, that's it,
I love you guys.
Yeah. I think we
I
should
love
have,
how this came to a circle.
we'll have this conversation again next week, okay?
All right.
Have a fantastic day. Infinite gratitude that all of you were here. And I know Cecile, Christina, Gustavo, Nada, all of them were there. Luis was there. So infinite gratitude for all the members that show up. Mike was there. So that show up week after week, and to all of you for your dedication, selfless sacrifice. So many blessings, much love. Good night.
Good
Bye.
night.